So welcome back to the weekly news roundup and the Quicklines section. Since we did two main sections, we're going to keep this one slightly shorter today. But we have some fun stories here. Here's how to find and remove credential stealing Chrome extensions. Yes, it turns out that a whole bunch more extensions, 30 more different Chrome extensions stealing credentials from 260,000 users. This is why I am not a fan of browser extensions. I prefer not to use them. The problem here is that oftentimes very similar extensions are pushed out multiple times with different names. And sometimes even they could pull the extension, rename it something else, and put the exact same extension back up. And so this is actually why most of these organizations are not actually telling you the name of the extension, because as soon as it is known, then what could happen is you can... what you could do is they can just simply change the name of it and you don't even know. So what this one actually does here is it mentions how you can actually search for the actual code of the extension, which cannot be changed. And so looking at this, when you're familiar with extension removal angle, here's two kinds, those installed by the user and those forced installed, of course. You can install extensions through group policies and things like that. But what they want to tell you to do is if you go down into your system, and my apologies, this is all with Windows stuff. Ugh. But if it goes into your users, username, app data, local, Google Chrome user, then you can find the extensions. On Linux, that should be under, I think it's going to be under .config, share, and in your home folder, .config share, or in the USR share folder. And then you're going to find the Chrome extension, and then you're going to hunt down, you can find the list. Now, the extensions are going to have this, lowercase letter gobbledygook down here. And what you want to do is look for these individual numbers here, because regardless of what they call the extension, this is the actual approved code. And what they've done here is they've given you the basic common names used, but they've actually given you the extension IDs. So what you can do is you can take these lists. So you can take these lists of extension codes that they use here, and you can hunt for those inside of your user directory and figure out exactly which extensions that you are running. And so that is some useful information as these come out and they give you not the friendly names, but these codes. You can use this to find out which codes are actually malicious. Just like the Ubuntu snaps did not too long ago, well, the same thing is being done with Outlook add-ons. How wonderful, Microsoft. You have a wonderful way of managing things. I mean, I thought it was only Snap that was this horrible with security. All right, no. Or they're just competing. So once again, you can have these extensions inside of your Outlook, and just like Snap, if the extension goes unmaintained and then the people decide that's not worth it anymore, and then they let the domain expire and a hacker buys that domain, they don't have to do anything else to take over the entire extension from Microsoft. And in this case, there was an Outlook extension which was able to steal 4,000 Microsoft account credentials, credit card numbers, banking security questions, and read all of your email. So what happened here is that extensions are actually created and they are only evaluated by Microsoft once. So no updates are evaluated. This means a malicious actor can create a good extension, keep it going good for 3 or 5 years, and then turn it malicious themselves. And Microsoft never knows because they do not vet anything, any extension past the first alteration, the first agreement. So the developer launched an add-on called Agree To, an open source meeting schedule tool with Chrome extension. It was a popular tool at some point, was abandoned by the developer, and the backend URL on Varsal expired, and an attacker claimed the URL. Microsoft reviews and signs the manifest only once, but does not continuously monitor what that URL serves later. So when Outlook 1 Versal.app subdomain became free to claim, cybercriminal jumped on the opportunity, scoop it up, and abused the powerful read-write item permissions requested and approved in 2022. The add-on could read and modify users' emails when loaded. So Google removed the old Chrome extension in February of 2025. Outlook add-on stayed listed in Microsoft's Office Store, still pointing to a Varsal URL that no longer belonged to the original developer. An attacker registered the subdomain and deployed a simple 4-page phishing kit containing a false Microsoft login, password collection, Telegram-based data exfiltration, and a redirect to the original login.microsoftonline.com. So the researchers were able to access the attacker's poorly secured Telegram-based exfiltration channel and recovered more than 4,000 sets of stolen Microsoft account credentials, plus everything else. So isn't it so wonderful that Microsoft wants everybody on these Microsoft accounts and they have no interest in actually keeping their system secure? So if you want a more reason to stay off of Microsoft, there it is, guys. Switch to Linux. Linux Mint is amazing. All right, here we go. A fake antivirus app spreads Android malware and steals banking credentials. Okay, first, guys, stop doing banking on your phone. Just stop. Your phone is not a good place to do banking. It's too open to theft, too open to damage, too open to malware, too open to issues. So if you think an app called antivirus means your phone's safe, think again. Cybercrooks found a new way to just turn that trust against you. They hosted it right on a reputable AI platform. It was on Hugging Face. How wonderful. All right, isn't it great that all these AI platforms are full of all these useful tools? This is called Trust Bastion, which purports to be an Android security solution offering virus protection, phishing defense, and malware blocking. However, once it is installed the fake app, they're hit with a scare tactic, a prompt claiming their phone is infected and urging them to update the app. The update doesn't fix anything. Instead, it activates the malware payload, turning your phone into a gateway for spying and data theft. From there, the malware can quite literally take screenshots, steal your lock screen PIN, and display fake login screens for banking services that mimic the real ones, ergo stealing all of your banking credentials because you're doing banking on your phone, which you shouldn't be doing. All right, no, I'm not going to subscribe. Deal with it. Here's a new job scam. We talked about job scams in AI not too long ago. This is another one which is utilizing, this one's actually not utilizing Google's direct services, but it's spoofing the Google Forms site. So, you know, whenever somebody sends me a Google Forms to fill out, I'm like, oh boy, a low effort ask. All right. So looking at the Google Forms here, then what they can look at here is, they created a subdomain, which is forms.google.ss-o.com. Now, I think the original one, like the correct one, I think is forms.google.com, which will, of course, take you to a sign-on page. The problem is like the SSO is often used abbreviation for single sign-on. And so people who are not as savvy will go to this link, and what they will end up doing is they will be prompted with a Google sign-in, which is actually there to harvest not only your Google credentials, but also your MFA tokens. Because isn't it awesome that this MFA was supposed to secure everything, and it's only took like, what, a year and a half to completely be able to steal all those too? Kind of like someone like Switch to Linux was saying was going to happen a long time ago, but I don't know. All right, unfortunately, when we try to visit the basic URLs, it just goes to the basic Google website. This is a common tactic to prevent Google from finding these, but they can then use these and host a specific page, so generationform.php. So this is actually easy to do. You basically just put a domain there and then have a basic index page. So if you land just on that, the index page just is a header reforward over to google.com. So you land on that URL, it just forwards you directly to Google. But if you land on the URL /regeneration_form.php, this actually loads up, hey, we're hiring for a job. We want you to apply. You got to sign in to continue. Hit the sign on button. It's going to harvest all of your Google credentials. And of course, you fill all this stuff out, and then they're laughing at how stupid you are behind the scenes, because that's what they do. And it's some Indian dude watching you through your web camera in his underwear. Of course, once you click the sign in button, it goes to this page here, which was the fake Google login page, which is stealing your credentials. So you got to be really careful with these, particularly this crazy job market we got. You know, becomes a lot more difficult to see and understand, what is legitimate and what is not. And I've been thinking about ways that you can protect yourself. Let's suppose you do need to look for a job. How can you better protect yourself? Maybe I'll do a whole video on it, but, in brief summary, get yourself a temporary phone number, get yourself a temporary email, and use that kind of stuff and provide minimal information until you absolutely know you're dealing with somebody legitimate. So how do you manage that? Well, with intentionality. That's all I'll tell you for now. All right. Criminals are using AI websites to clone major brands. So, AI tool Vercel was abused by cyber criminals to create a Malwarebytes lookalike website. So wonderful. You're thinking you're going to Malwarebytes, and nope, you're going somewhere else. So in minutes, they can clone a site's look and feel, plug in a payment or credential stealing flows, and start luring victims through search, social media, and spam. And so cyber criminals have always known it's much easier to trick users by impersonating something they already recognize than by inventing something new. This to me is a challenge because there's so few services out there that the scammers can now assume they can buy up email lists and blast out things, assuming that the vast majority of people will either have an Apple account or a Google account. And so you get this in your inbox and you think it's something legitimate, and just in a momentary lapse of reason, you can hit the button and boom, you're phished. I solve that in interesting ways. Number one, I don't have any accounts with these big services outside of, obviously I have the Google account for the YouTube here, and I am a webmaster for a lot of businesses. So I have a master Google account. I even have a master GoDaddy account. But unfortunately, I have clients that use that nonsense. And my own login allows me to log into their stuff without having to pester them for 2FA codes. And so I have these, but they are on hidden emails that nobody knows. And so, I get to a more popular email that I use more frequently. I get something that's like, hey, you need to sign into your Google account. I don't have a Google account there. That's a spam, And so you got to be much more careful about this. So what has happened to supercharge this is these AI website generation sites. So here's a flash of fake sites. Of course, they'll jump in like holiday themes around Christmas, Black Friday, various sales. Any holiday will jump up with these. These researchers found 18,000 holiday themed domains like Christmas, Black Friday, flash sale. At least 750 of them were confirmed as malicious, and many more are still under investigation. So this is where the impersonation hit home. So they actually found this as v0.app, which points to Vercel. So that means that somebody used this particular AI system to create the fake Malwarebytes. In 2022, the operator began layering Malwarebytes branding and publishing Indonesian language security content. All right. This likely helped with the search reputation while normalizing brand look to visitors. Later, the site went blank. No public records for 2025, only resurfacing as a full-on clone backed by AI-assisted tooling. And this was actually for, they said what it was, installmalwarebytes.org, which is not their site. Installmalwarebytes.org. So it's launched just to do a long game. Let's boost the SEO ranking, the domain history. You pull it off for a period of time, and then it came back. And then, of course, they used a number of different ways to redirect traffic, malvertising campaigns, SEO injections, things like this. And then the fake site used PayPal payments, but the integration hid the merchant's name and logo from the user-facing confirmation screens, leaving only the buyer's details visible. I think that PayPal should refund all of the scam themselves. Hey, you guys, I have literally switched my payment process. Like, I was using PayPal for like 10 or 15 years in my web design business because of convenience. And it got to the point where they would not allow me to attach my business phone number to it for whatever reason. And I don't use smartphones. Like, scan this with your QR code with your phone. Sorry, can't do that. I'm not using your apps. I can't do anything. And so they would basically lock my account like every week. And so I literally had to call them. And then they asked the same 3 questions every single time. It got to the point I actually called them up I gave them answers to the questions before they asked them. I'm like, whoa, wait, how do you know this? Like, you lock my account every week. What are you doing over there? So I actually finally switched my payment processor to another payment processor, which I'm infinitely more happy with. Yet somebody can be collecting money off of a fake malware by account, and they don't seem to have a problem with it. I mean, Lord. Right. Okay. Well, we have a couple of meta ones here, which is interesting because there's actually what's really interesting. I'm going to watch these closely. There are 2 jury trials with Meta, one in New Mexico, one in California. And so 2 trials over child safety allegations in California and New Mexico. The lawsuits are landmark cases marking the first time anything has reached a jury. And so the New Mexico case filed by Attorney General Raul Torres in December 2023 centers on exploitation. They built evidence by posing as children online and documented what happened next. In the form of solicitors, the team brought suit under New Mexico's Unfair Trade Practices Act, a consumer protection statute that sidesteps Section 230. Because obviously, if you're posing as a child and bad things are happening, you probably may actually be outside of 230, but I'd have to see what the case is here. So the newly unsealed internal documents revealed the company's safety researcher had warned about the sheer scale of the problem, claiming that around 500,000 cases of exploitation were happening daily. Torres did not mince words about what he believed the platform had become, calling it an online marketplace for human traffic. In the complaint, the Attorney General says Meta's platforms, Facebook and Instagram, are breeding grounds for predators who target children for human trafficking and the distribution of CSAM, grooming, and solicitation. So the complaint's emphasis on weak age verification touches on broader issues regulators around the world are now grappling with: how platforms verify age in their youngest users and how easily those systems can be bypassed. Okay, so this is the problem I see with this suit. Okay. Oh no, we need to verify people who are children on the site. No, we need to stop doing this. Why don't we just get back into a world where we keep our children off the internet? And you might say, that's easier said than done. I don't think so. It's a social contract thing. You know, it's everywhere a child goes outside their house, they're expected to have no phones. Sorry, you can't have your phone riding on the bus. Sorry, you can't have your phone at school. Sorry, you can't. You know, is this crazy or not? This is a complicated problem, okay? Because you look at the school situation, most of the abuses we find in schools happen because kids have cell phones. I understand that. And I think we need to stop those. That's why I think the best option is every classroom should have a CCTV. Closed circuit, can't be on the internet. And the only way to access those files, so that could be locked with 2 passkeys. Technical, right? Lock it between 2 passkeys. A school administrator, like a superintendent, a principal has that, and the IT guy has the other. So the IT guy can't access those videos, nor can the principal. Only when the 2 come together with 2 passkeys. The only way those footage could be accessed is if there is a complaint made. A parent brings a complaint. Okay, so, and then of course all footage is deleted after 30 days. Everything is on premise. Nothing ever leaves the school. This is a system that would work, right? The classroom's being recorded. No single person can access the footage, period. 2 people come together when a complaint is made, an IT guy and a school administrator. A complaint is made. Okay, 2 passkeys. We're unlocking this. Let's see the video. Accountability. No single person can access videos. No videos get leaked out onto the internet. And children don't have phones at school. You have solved every problem with that very simple system. Can we technically put together a 2 passkey system? Guaranteed. Of course we can. Just do 2 layers of security. First layer gets past this one. Second layer gets past that one. Brilliant concept. We need to do that. All right. So we also identified loopholes that could allow children to encounter content they shouldn't or couldn't make it easier for adults. So their big problem here is Meta doesn't do enough to keep children safe. Okay. I think that parents and society as a whole should keep kids off of the internet, but it shouldn't be something that has to be verified from the app perspective, because I don't want to get to a case where we all have to prove who we are to get onto any app. That would be a problem. But what's behind this, and what I think could solve it in this case, is not the focus on let's have age verification. Let's focus instead on the accountability of the company. If the company knew there was a problem and didn't solve the problem internally, the company should be held very liable and have to be paid a hefty fine for that. And so it's interesting. So Meta's design features are addictive, and the company has been using the term problematic internet use internally to avoid acknowledging addiction. That's actually the case. This is moving on to the case in California. So this person alleges that YouTube and Instagram hooked her from childhood. She testified she was watching YouTube at 6, on Instagram by 9, and suffered from worsening depression and body dysmorphia. So TikTok and Snap already settled her cases, but Google and Meta have not settled the cases. Now, in this case here, the parents did take some steps to keep the child off of the internet. But, you know, I have seen parents who try and quote unquote regulate what their kids do on the internet. It doesn't work. You have to train them to find things to do that are not the internet. But it's not possible. Dude, we had it for decades. Children have only been on iPads for 15 years. They're only 15 years old. Think about that. Every child 16 years ago and longer were not iPad kids. In fact, when they first came out, they were so expensive, you wouldn't dare give one to your child. Normalizing an iPad for a child hasn't happened, I think, as only about 7 or 8 years old. Okay, so 7 or 8 years ago is when people started routinely handing these devices to their children. You're telling me we can't look at what we did in parenting 10 and 15 years ago and say, yeah, what did we do without iPads then? And then it's a very simple thing. Your child may need a phone in this digital age to call you for a ride. They don't need a phone that gets on the internet. You could go right on down to Best Buy, Walmart probably as well. Best Buy has a whole panel of flip phones that don't even connect to the internet. Get one of the phone plans that doesn't have data. There are solutions. But think about this. Our world got this bad in less than a decade. It's a problem. Huge problem. Litany of allegations. In 2021, whistleblower Francis Hugan leaked internal Facebook documents showing the company knew the platforms damaged teenage mental health. 2023, Meta whistleblower RTO Bergier testified before the Senate that the company ignored endangerment of children. And unredacted documents unsealed in New Mexico's case suggested that the company actively marketed messaging platforms to children while suppressing safety features that were considered not profitable. And so there's a lot of fundamental problems in here. Of course, they get into 15 European governments were considering measures to ban children from social media. And in principle, I like that idea. The problem is you want to implement that by verifying everybody's age on the internet. And I'm not okay with that. Now, there are ways that are sane. The problem is we have an insane world. Like, if let's suppose we can do a verification that you're over the age of 18 with a credit card check. I'm okay with that because I can change my credit card numbers pretty easy. And it can get a pass-fail. The problem is now credit card companies market cards to kids, and so that may or may not be a viable thing. What I'm not ever doing, I'm not giving you a copy of my ID. I'm not doing a face scan for you. You can get my face right here on YouTube, and I'm not doing anything more beyond that. You know, and if Google's like, oh, I don't know how old you are. Dude, I got 2,000 videos with my graying beard, okay? Shut up. All right. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens with these cases. There's a little bit more comment over here. Meta's own research found parental supervision does not really help curb teens' addictive social media. And this I agree with, because I mean, I know a family that tries really hard to regulate what their kids do, but their kid still watches a whole bunch of vulgar, inappropriate videos that are somehow passing through the kids filter. And the kids are still perpetually addicted to their phone, even though, you know, their parents have to approve all of the apps. Because it's the same thing with the video game stuff. Okay, let me tell you this, and this is some of the research that I read a lot of the in-depth psychology articles when I was researching for my book, I Am Not Amused. There's going back and looking at that whole situation of do violent video games make people violent? And of course, people like most of the hefty gamers, of course it doesn't. You know, I've never shot up anybody, you know. You get that kind of stuff. But there's actually a better answer. And it's not, by the way, the newer science isn't necessarily the better science. In fact, modern science is flat out retarded. Most modern scientists, I'm not sure they'd pass 5th grade. A lot of the older science is a lot better. You had a lot better protocols. You had a lot better questions. You had a lot better research. You had a lot better data analysis. And so I'm not going to look at just that, but I looked at some of the modern studies. I looked at some of the older studies. And what it turns out is interesting is that first-person shooters do not make kids more violent. All video games make kids more violent. It doesn't matter if it's easy kid-friendly games with cartoons and Pokemons or whatever else you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's safe, clean, E-rated games. All games increase violence markers in kids. All games. Now, does that mean all games are going to cause kids to break out and do something violent? No. But the impact on first-person shooters versus a game like Tetris, no other impact. All video games, though, because what they do is all video games increase the serotonin that triggers a fight or flight response, which is the indicating marker of aggression in kids. And so when you look at this, what's interesting is that all screen time has negative consequences. Now, I'm not saying ban all screen time, but I'm saying if your kid cannot live a life without a smartphone every waking second of day. If it's to the point so much you gotta like take the phone away so he can eat dinner, or God forbid, they keep watching the thing while they're eating dinner, you have a kid that is going to be so aggressive, so problematic, so addicted to their own personal feelings. That is the fundamental problem. So it's not regulating a little bit. It's teaching your kid to find things to do outside of the screen. This is why I'm not addicted to my smartphone. There's days I don't even pick it up. Like, I have a little place I put my phone at night because my phone is my alarm clock as well. I use multi things in the van here. There are days I do not even take that phone out of that carrier because I don't do anything on the phone. I do look at the news articles for this weekly news roundup. I catalog the articles here. I don't read them on the phone, but I catalog them from RSS feeds. That is about the extent of what I use my phone for. That and communication. I will check email only if I'm looking for an email, but it's been a good month or two since I've pulled up the email app on that phone. I mean, that's the world we got to get to. So even trying to curb it, set screen times and things like this, the fundamental problem is you have not trained your child to do something else. And that's, I think, what they need. But the meta research shows that it doesn't matter if you're trying to regulate their screen time or not. In fact, if your kid is so addicted to the phone, regulating screen time is worse for them because they're constantly thinking of ways to get that screen time back. And that's a fundamental problem. So it's not that you can't have no phone at all, although that's probably better. It's that you need to train your kid to do alternative things that they're not perpetually wanting that screen time. That is what you might need to think about doing. And Meta knew all this. Now, of course, onto our feature article for today, and it's just serendipity that's last. I'm not necessarily always putting it last these days. It's just where it happens to sit. We did mention this in the comments here before we got to this section. HP now has a gaming laptop subscription service. So don't worry, guys. 2030 is coming, and you will own nothing, and you will be happy. And you'll have your OMEN laptop game. You know, OMEN, the scary kid, OMEN. So you're subscribing to the devil. Got it. Okay. So HP has a gaming laptop subscription service offering an RTX 5080 GPUs for $130 a month, but you'll never own the PC. All right. You have a 30-day trial. Come on. You have yearly upgrade options, but you will never own this computer. All right. So the HP OMEN, this is a bad omen, guys. The HP OMEN gaming subscription is essentially a way to rent a gaming laptop at different spec levels and, unsurprisingly, a very different price points. So after the first 30 days, you are locked into a minimum of 12 months before you can walk away without penalty. By the way, at the end of that 12 months, you are effectively paying. Every year, you are paying the cost to own the computer. You just never own it. But hey, at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, you can trade it in for a new one. Oh, God. This is so stupid. And people will buy this up. People will be slurping this up. So here's actually the full list here. So the cheapest one, everyday gaming, great performance. This is the Victus 15, is $50 per month, and the specs are there. This is a really poorly designed table in the website here, but you can see here's the displays, the storage, the RAM, GPU, all this kind of fun stuff here. And so they go from $50 a month on up to $129 a month for the OMEN Max. And so the thing is that this is per month. So let's say we do that. Let's just say 10 months. That's over $1,200 a year. Add that extra 130, 12, 13, 14. So you're now paying $1,500 for the year for this computer, and you never own it. If you run into a situation where you have to stop because it's like I've lost my job. My power bill has gone up because of the recent data center that's moved in. I can no longer afford this $129.99 per month. Oh, don't worry. You're just going to have to buy out the rest of the contract and still give them the computer back. Yes, they are charging you, just like the Instant Ink. They are charging you the full cost of the year just to cancel. So, in other words, if this is, let me actually grab this distraction box here because there is a calculator on it I can access quickly. So let's say that we are doing the bad omen, and you're doing $129.99, and so over your month that is $1,559. Now, HP is going to get that much money from you. If after 4 months you can no longer afford this, so let me go ahead and put this in. So you have already paid some money. You are going to have to pay them $1,169.91 and ship them the computer back. What retard is doing this? I mean, I get it. I don't have $1,000 laying around. I gotta have my laptop. I'm so serendiped and so serotonin infected from all that screen time my mother let me have. I gotta have my computer now. It's only $129.99 a month. I can make the payments. God. This guy here wouldn't personally recommend it. Waiting, saving, and paying outright still makes the most financial sense. Obviously, it depends on what you do. So along with it, they allow you to upgrade your device every year so you can stay relatively current hardware and also get 24/7 customer support included. Hello, thank you for calling. How may I help you? Yeah, you're not going to get support in America. I promise you that. I don't know, you might be, but if you fail to return your laptop or accessories, they can charge you up to $3,299 for the highest. Oh, so that's actually more than that. Okay, my calculation was just assuming you're going to pay $129.99 per month minus whatever you've already paid. Now, apparently you're paying more than that. Is it like double or triple? I don't know. So for the $129 for this tier, it costs you roughly the same as buying the laptop outright in 16 to 18 months. So a year and a half of saving that money, you could buy the laptop outright and own it. Of course, if it has Windows 11, you don't really own it, but, we can always install Linux on it. But look at this poll down here. Ownership still matters, only 68%. Only 68% of people say ownership still matters. This is a fundamental problem in our society. 24% say, well, I do this only if there's a buyout option, which there's not, but you know. And then possibly top tier GPUs, 5% of people are okay with being on payments for life. These are the 5% of the people that are going to be very happy owning nothing. And then this 3%, they are just brain dead. They're brain dead. Burp. They rock around. Burp. These are the guys, they walk around and they walk into walls. Like, derp, 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 derp. 3% of people want to pay a monthly fee forever and never own their hardware? I have to live in a world with these people? God. No. No. All right, guys. If that wasn't silly enough, we got to get to Sillyville. If you have a graying beard like mine, you are of my generation, and you had to stand in line at the movies and decide, am I going to watch Stand By Me or Transformers the movie? Two classic movies that opened the same day, by the way, if you didn't know. And then you're like, I love my Transformers. I go into Transformers. And then you are traumatized by the death of Optimus Prime. You are now, folks, justified. Because Hasbro is going to do a 1-year apology tour for killing Optimus Prime. The snowflakes have taken over at Hasbro, which we kind of knew from all the Barbie nonsense that's been going on. But, okay. The morons have arrived. Guys, going back, if you're watching just a standalone of this, one of the earlier ones we did, of course, if you're here on the whole live stream, you know we talked about the digital necromancy and the importance of grief process. Optimus Prime dying taught us to manage grief. We were better people when our hero died because it taught us that even the robots can die. It allowed us through the grieving process. And Transformers the movie is still one of my favorite movies to this day. I love the music. I love the animation. Not this modern anime crap with these horrible animations. You know, and it's like just a static image over some background ping mode. It's like, oh God, whoever animated anime, take my Transformers every day of the year. But yes, poor Optimus Prime died, and for the 40th anniversary of Transformers, do you believe it, guys? We're that old. 40th anniversary of Transformers the movie, they're apologizing. To the loyal fans, we hear you and feel your pain. As a gesture of goodwill, we'd like to make it up to you with the apology tour. Oh, Lord. No, it was a good thing that Optimus Prime died. And they brought him back on the next season anyway. They resurrected him from the dead. Digital necromancy in its most physical form. There you go. Fall, you know. Famous scene. I'm not going to play the video there. There's too much music over it. But, of course, the fans, this guy, unless the apology comes with a time machine to stop 6-year-old me from seeing that death scene, I don't want it. Here you go. Imagine saying sorry for traumatizing an entire generation with robot deaths. Okay, here's my tinfoil hat conspiracy about this, guys. They are normalizing, humanizing the robots, so when they take over the world, we will have sympathy and not want to kill them. This is part of the great psyop, folks. They are training us to not want to kill the robots. That's what they're doing. Okay. Too late. 30 years too late. Now we just need a Star Wars to do this for the Force Awakens trilogy. Amen to that. Hasbro, sorry we killed your childhood hero. Toys, though. I mean, come on. You had to kill Optimus Prime so that you can sell Rodimus Prime. Come on, guys. You gotta do it. All right. Well, oh dear. It's just getting better here. Smoke detectors are recalled because of risk of fire. If that's not absurd enough. All right. Thousands of smoke detectors recalled. They were all sold exclusively on Amazon. So if you bought a smoke detector from Amazon recently, the U.S. Consumer Protection Safety Committee has instructions for you, okay? your instructions, if you have this, so this particular one, let's see, 11 Sholem photoelectric 3-pack smoke detector alarms may fail to activate promptly if sensing a threshold. Security warnings are set too high, so it won't do the job properly. So you have a job to do, okay? You need a refund for your product. So what you need to do is you need to email the company at lmm15957491237 at 163.com to receive a full instructions from this company here, which I think my cat walked across the keyboard for that. It is, of course, a company in China. They're exclusively sold on Amazon. I think Amazon should be fronting all of these because maybe Amazon should be doing a better job in recognizing LMM15957491237 at 163.com from the company Cheng of China is probably not a legitimate company. Amazon needs to be paying for this. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Have you bought Lachaume Model XG7D04KZ97Z? I'd just go ahead and I'll tell Amazon you want a refund for it. And if they don't, I'd just go ahead and charge it back on your credit card. Because I don't think Cheng is going to be responding to LLM 15957491237 at 163.com. I have a sneaky suspicion those emails are not going to go anywhere. Okay, folks. Well, Amazon, you need to do better. So does DJI, by the way. So DJI sells one of these very dystopian robot vacuum cleaners that happens to have, they scan your whole house, they map your whole house out, they actually have cameras and microphones. Why does your vacuum cleaner need cameras and microphones? Like cameras, maybe we can make an argument. Microphones? Why does your vacuum need a microphone? It's all you need. Your little robot thing's going to sneak on into the room with the microphone to listen to you. It's listening. So this guy's like, I want to do something fun. I want to control it with a PS5 controller. All right, got a PS5 controller. I got a DJI Romo. He, runs around. I want to control this thing. I think it'd just be really fun to sit on my couch and control my vacuum cleaner with my PS5 remote control, right? So he goes into his app and he uses Claude's coding AI assistant to reverse engineer the communication protocols. And he set up his homebrew app, connected it to DJI servers, and 7,000 robot vacuum cleaners from 24 countries started answering his call. So he could now, utilizing his PS5 controller and his little app that he created, he could now actually see the cameras, listen to the microphones inside of 7,000 robot vacuums in 24 countries, and he could access all of their housing plans. Yeah. He now controls the robot army. Oh, man, he could have fun with this. He just turned this thing on, chase the children around the house. Little toddlers walk around. Yeah, the robot's attacking the kid. Traumatize the child from these robots. That's the best thing he could possibly do. He will train that child from a very young age to not trust the robots. Okay? And the family's like, the robot vacuums after my kid. I don't know why. And then maybe if these things could have speakers too, that'd be awesome. Like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. That'd be so awesome if these things had speakers too. Oh, that'd be awesome. So apparently DJI stuff is not particularly secure. One PS5 controller and Claude AI can completely get all of it. All right. Well, we know that the traffic cameras have been a big hot issue these days. We, praise the Lord, Amazon has ditched its plan to feed everything into Flock. That's good. Of course, they'll probably silently do it. In a few months. They'll just kind of quietly turn on some switch in the back. We don't know about it. But of course, these traffic cameras are really bad. And I guess Australia. In fact, I did see an article. I didn't include it here, but I did see an article that Australia is becoming the real-time test case for AI and AI dystopia. As they're literally laying AI into the hands of all these things. And it turns out this seems to be one of these cases where an Aussie couple gets a $6,000 seatbelt ticket from the guy who stole their car, forget to buckle up. The first thing I have to say is, why is Australia issuing $6,000 tickets for not wearing a seatbelt? That seems a little bit ridiculous to me. But what happened is, these family in Australia, their house is broken into. They call the police because, of course, Australia doesn't have any guns. Unless, of course, you're an Arabi terrorist or something, in which case you want to open fire on a bridge down there in New South Wales. Really bad situation. But unless you're that guy, you don't have guns because they basically ban them from all society because they're like, you got to call the police. We are here to protect you, right? And so they call the police. Some guy breaks in the home. The police never show up, by the way. So good luck if the guy's in there, playing saw or something with them. It's like, sorry, I can't get to the door. I'm now tied up by the guy that broke into my house. But they scared the guy off. The kids were all like terrified. Someone's breaking in the house. The same guy comes back a couple hours later, breaks into the house a second time. They still call the police. They chase him off again, but he gets away with their car keys. So he jumps in this car and he speeds on down the road in his car, without wearing a seatbelt because, he was kind of hasty to get out of there. So the local traffic camera picks up this guy, flags the license plates from, this is the guy, this is the homeowner, and this is the guy, this is the homeowner, and he's not wearing a seatbelt. So they literally send the couple a ticket for 6,258 Australian dollars, roughly 4,400 US dollars, for not wearing a ticket because the AI traffic camera caught him not wearing a seatbelt after he sold the car after the police did not respond to the second burglary in their house. And of course, this ticket comes after their children are now inside of therapy because they're terrified of their house because people keep on breaking in, and it's Australia, so you're not allowed to shoot the moron. All right? So, when I lived in Wyoming and my neighbor was getting stalked, the police said, if he comes to your house again, shoot him, drag him inside, and then call us. That's actually what the police told her. Okay. Respect. Okay. Because stop being stalkers. All right. But anyway, so there you go. The traffic cameras are coming to get us, folks. They're coming to get us.